when we look at the top end of the draft, potentially here in 2023, I don't see a clear-cut 1.1.
If you're going to take a running back, they can get hurt. Kind of think we're getting to a point where wide receivers are going to overtake these guys. Get ready to call me a boomer, but what about quarterbacks?
Look at the release.
There's your separation.
Great route.
Stutter and go. Gets by clean.
That is unbelievable.
Maybe the greatest catch I've ever seen.
When we look at the top end of the draft, potentially here in 2023, I don't see a clear-cut 1.1. I can tentatively say Christian McCaffrey, but I'll tell you what, it's not going to be like it was this year where I know Jonathan Taylor was probably one of the biggest busts in fantasy football history, but Jonathan Taylor was the consensus number one player. I mean, it was like I would say like 85 to 90% of fantasy managers were taking Jonathan Taylor 1 overall, and then CMC was like maybe 2. Derrick Henry was in the mix at 2. But I just think there's a total lack of clarity at the top of the draft board. And I'm not just talking like 1, I'm talking like 1, 2, 3. Like who's there? Like I don't know who I want to take 1, 2, 3.
I mean, I think it'll be McCaffrey. I think he'll be the 1. I think that I feels pretty good. From a running back perspective. Obviously, what we need to understand is that if you're going to take a running back, they can get hurt. Okay. Like, I mean, the Jonathan Taylor thing is a perfect example. And I think Jonathan Taylor's an awesome dude. We had him on Eckler's Edge this year. He's great. He came on the show without anything to promote. That's when you know a guy's one of the real ones, right? Because most of these guys are on to promote something. But anyway, so Jonathan Taylor, great guy. I feel bad for him that he's had this type of season, but the narrative around him was, how can you take Christian McCaffrey number 1 overall with all the injury concerns? Jonathan Taylor's never missed a practice. And he plays running back in the NFL. These guys can get hurt at any time. It sucks, but it's the reality of the situation. So yeah, McCaffrey you could take him 1-1 and he could get hurt again, even if he never gets hurt at this year. The rest of the way, knock on wood, I hope he doesn't get hurt because he's fun to watch the 49ers. I hope nobody ever gets hurt, right? But McCaffrey could get hurt next year, but he still has that great upside if he's there. I mean, Eckler will be interesting, obviously, in this conversation. But
exactly,
really for me, it's like, I don't know. I kind of think we're getting to a point where wide receivers are going to overtake these guys because of the injury concern. I mean, look at Justin Jefferson has 296 half PPR points. Right. And he's a guy that scored 8 touchdowns this year. Like that, it's not as if he's having some absurd, crazy touchdown season, but he's putting together these numbers that are, pretty crazy. He's outscoring all running backs right now in a half PPR format. I know my brother-in-law Travis took Justin Jefferson number 1 overall in like a straight up standard, no PPR, no half PPR.
Wow.
And he's like, I'm doing it. I'm just going to do it. He had all these reasons for it. And shout out to him. He's playing his championship this next weekend, mostly because Justin Jefferson has been awesome and he had hit a couple other picks as well. But I think we're getting to a point where, if you get these receivers that have outrageous seasons from a yardage standpoint, because Tyreek Hill, 270 half PPR points right now. And we obviously, Tyreek Hill was not going as high as Justin Jefferson was, but he's ended up having this crazy season. The highest scoring running back right now, Josh Jacobs, is 278. Derrick Henry, 272. Christian McCaffrey, running back 3, he's 270. So, I mean, I think we're going to have to be pretty much, everybody industry wide was on Justin Jefferson having a big season this year. Right. That's why he was like number 2 wide receiver pretty much anywhere behind Cooper Kupp, who obviously, it's crazy. Cooper Kupp is still like wide receiver 17. He hasn't played in years.
Right, exactly.
So these wide receivers that can have this crazy ceiling like this, when all the factors come together, they can be just as good as running backs now in fantasy.
Yeah, you're right. In full point PPR, that is even more of a stark contrast, right? Like Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill are the only players over 300 points in full point PPR right now. I mean, they are out. Justin Jefferson with 327 in full point PPR. He's outpacing Austin Eckler, who, I apologize. He's also a player over 300 points. So 307 for Austin Eckler, who's the RB1 right now. But again, I think folks are going to look at Christian McCaffrey. They're going to be worried about the injury concern. I don't think he's going to be, look, he's probably going to go 1.1 in a lot of spots, but I just don't think he's going to be like that dominant consensus 1.1 that we have. And again, every year we seem to have that guy
Mhm.
And I just don't think there is that guy in fantasy going into 2023. Look, Eckler's going to be there. He's going to be somewhere in that mix. I think Derrick Henry is going to be somewhere in that mix, but obviously the age and the wear and tear for Derrick Henry is going to be a huge concern. What's up with Saquon? Does he resign with the Giants? Does he go somewhere else? I think his landing spot is going to be very indicative of where he goes in fantasy drafts. And then again, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill. How high are these guys going to go? Are they going to be are they going to be top 2-3 picks? I think they very well may be. You know, you brought up a point too about the age, right? I feel like if Javonte Williams and Breece Hall played a full season, I almost wonder if they would have, because of their age, been in line for a potential 1.1 overall spot. Maybe.
I think we're in an interesting spot at the running back position because we have a class of guys that are still really, really good quality players. But they're kind of part of that, like, it's so tough because age comes so quickly at running backs, right? But like, you know, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, even Saquon, these guys are all like 25 plus, right? I'm pretty sure. Even Josh Jacobs, who's obviously the current RB1 in half PPR. He's still a guy that, he got drafted was at 2019. We haven't gotten a new flush of guys to come in here and kind of push the next group up. The guy that's the closest is running back 10, Ramondre Stevenson. He might be part of that next era, but we have guys that are getting close to like aging out. Derrick Henry, obviously he's sort of in that aging out sort of area. I mean, although it feels like he's never gonna drop off. Dalvin Cook, as crazy it is, Dalvin Cook was drafted in 2017. I believe like he would be close to what we'd call like aging out from a guy that would have a ton of carries on his body, stuff like that. But Najee Harris kind of took a step back this year. You mentioned Breece Hall got hurt, Javonte Williams, like those second year backs, really, this is when you want to start getting guys in their second season, guys in their third season at running back, because they can start to have these outrageous campaigns. I mean, again, Stevenson, Ramondre, the guy is the one to bring up here that he's had that year in his second season. But a lot of these guys, ETN obviously hit a couple of speed bumps. Kenneth Walker hit a couple of speed bumps. None of these guys are going to be in contention for that top overall pick, but that might be a reason to take a different position, like a wide receiver earlier, and maybe try to hit those other guys later on because of circumstances, because of other factors, they haven't been pushed up to that top overall pick, but maybe they have that within their range of outcomes if all things break right.
Yeah, running back age is such a important factor. I haven't looked at the numbers this year. Obviously, we're still kind of in this season, but looking at last year, only 2 of the top 30 running backs, 2 of the top 30 were aged 28 years or older. Yeah. So when you are taking a running back who's aged 28 or older, you are almost guaranteed to not finish in like the top 10 of that position, right? And so that makes it really tricky. So guys like Dalvin Cook, they're turning 28. I think Derrick Henry is turning 29 if memory serves. Yeah, he's going to be turning 29. Austin Eckler is going to be turning 28, right? So Christian McCaffrey still right there. He's turning 27. And as you mentioned, Josh Jacobs is probably the youngest of that lot. He's going to be turning 25 this offseason. But then again,
even Ramondre, I know he's only in his second season, but he's 24. Like the only guy that is top 13 right now in rushing yards, not fantasy points. So rushing yards, who's younger than 24 is rookie Dameon Pierce at running back, is 13th in terms of rushing yards right now, which is pretty crazy. Although there's a quarterback in that mix as well. ETN as well. He is 1,000 yards. My bad. There are some guys that are sort of on their fringes, but they just haven't put it all together enough to be that top running back pick.
Circumstance matters too. Like, okay, you could love Dameon Pierce, baby beast mode. Okay, fine, great. But he plays for the damn Texans, dude. Like, you really want to take a running back there? That doesn't sound enticing at all. You know what I mean? I think Travis Etienne's probably one of the most interesting ones. He's going to be attached to a good quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. Maybe that offense takes a step forward. He's still young, still recovering off of a foot injury as well. So I don't know. Maybe that's something that's interesting there. But it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it is such an interesting look ahead to 2023, because I really honestly feel like the top 5 is very cloudy, very, very cloudy from a fantasy perspective. And I think you're right, man. I think people, because of the murky waters, I feel like they may choose to go Justin Jefferson 1.1 overall and just kind of sort of like forget the headache that is the running back position with age and wear and tear and all those things, kind of, playing a big factor in that 1.1 conversation.
Get ready to call me a boomer, but what about quarterbacks? I mean,
hey,
look, I know that obviously Kelsey too, but that's a whole nother separate discussion about, replaceability and position scarcity and all that. But like, I mean, you just look at and this is not the perfect way to do it. Okay. Not the end all be all way to do it. But right now, in terms of total fantasy points, Patrick Mahomes has 387.9. Josh Allen has 386. Jalen Hurts, 374. Quarterback 4, Joe Burrow, who, we don't typically think about as like a big time rushing threat. But he has rushed for 5 touchdowns and 247 yards this year. And he's shown that part of his game is a little bit back after kind of taking a step back his last year because he's coming off an ACL tear. He has 351. Quarterback 5, Justin Fields. And Justin Fields is the typical, like, oh, just wait on quarterback forever because you can get some runner like Justin Fields. Well, great. But the drop off from Joe Burrow at 4 to Justin Fields at 5, 351 points, like I said, for Joe Burrow to 289 points for Justin Fields. Like,
wow,
quarterback used to be obviously later on quarterback, it's whatever, like when it was just the passing era, but these freak show guys, the alien quarterbacks like Mahomes, Allen, Hurts, and this year, Joe Burrow, weirdly enough, like these guys have provided you with such a big advantage because of what they can do as runners, but especially what they can do as passers. The combination of it all has provided you a legitimate like advantage. And I don't know if it's right to chase that, but what's going to stop Patrick Mahomes from having that season again next year? What's going to stop Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts from having that season again next year? Right. Like, I don't know. And then when you're just talking about bottom line fantasy production, this is just half PPR. Justin Jefferson, like we said earlier, 296 points. Look at the amount that you're getting from these other players. I could totally see like, hey, look, if you want to take one of the alien quarterbacks in round 1, maybe not first overall. I don't know. Maybe that's maybe that's too high, but I think it's worth a conversation if we need to readjust our brains to quarterbacks. Like, this is not Peyton Manning or Tom Brady. Like you're going to get big time, massive production from the run and pass game from these quarterbacks to the point that it is a legitimate advantage where it wasn't maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, I think that's a great call. And you and I have been kind of talking about that, kicking that around all season long. And I agree with you, man. I totally 100% agree with you. Yeah, it's just, oh, wow. What an interesting look ahead it is, though, after a weird 2022, in my opinion, right? Scoring has been down all across the board. Teams have, we always expect, surprise teams and all that stuff. But, man, like you said, it's at the scarcity spots, running back. These established dudes are getting into an age that's becoming really dicey. And it's just a situation where it's just so murky going into 2023 that I think fantasy drafts will be I think they're going to be really interesting at the top, maybe in the top 10, maybe in the top 15. The trickle down effect of some of these murky waters, man, is going to be making some of these drafts pretty interesting.